Do the whole thing. Usually, if you call in on the phone, I would, yeah, I'd just do it through the audio. But I'm experimenting more and more with my Skype here, getting all of that going, because we're going to do the whole thing with John DeMay on the August 30th thing. He's going to call in on Skype, and I've got a buddy of mine that's going to hook this whole thing up to projector, so he's up on the. We got a nice projection screen and everything else. Anyway, Nick, the Meat and Potato Show, Conservative Talk and Awesome Rock. Welcome to the show, Nick. You're out in California right now. Are you? Where are you staying out in California?
Actually, I'm out, actually about 2 miles from Forest Hill, California.
Right.
It's Northern California, up in the mountains. I'm actually staying with 2016 presidential candidate John DeMay.
Are you at his place?
I'm actually in his house right now.
Is John there?
Yeah.
John should be on the show, too. We ought to get him on, too. We'd love to. Yeah, if he is, if he can hear you, just have him pull up a chair next to you. So anyway, yeah, you guys are getting ready for the event coming up July 5th. Why don't you tell us what that's all about and what he plans to do there?
Okay. Well, July 5th is the American Patriot Rally that we're going to be holding in Sacramento, California. It's going to be at the Capitol building on the south side. And basically, we're there to, protest, everything that, Operation American Spring protests about. Overpass for America is also sponsoring the event as well. So, we got a lot of different groups coming, and, basically, hey, if you got a beef with the government, we want to hear from you. As simple as that.
Exactly. But what's John? Is he a keynote speaker? Is he just speaking there? Is with other people? Give us a little rundown on that roster that's going on.
Okay. Well, yeah, I would say John is one of the keynote speakers. He'll be speaking to the crowd. I will be speaking as well. They want me to talk about the 10 steps on how to close an open society. And yeah, it's actually pretty scary when you see it all. And everything. But anyways, Pastor Bland is also scheduled to start off the festivities with the opening prayer, as well as, we got a few other patriots that are going to be speaking, and we'll also have a time for open mic, basically. Hey, if you want to come up and tell us how the government has wronged you in whatever such way, whether it be family courts, father's rights, gun rights, you name it.
Sure.
I mean, so if you want to talk about the corruption, we want to hear about it. We want to hear from that.
Exactly. One of the big things that's in the news now is the whole southern border is falling apart. You guys are in Southern California. Are you starting to see? You must be. No, well, Southern California has a large illegal population, as we all know, anyway. But what's going on now? Are you really starting? How bad is it?
Well, actually, I'm in Northern California, so I'm up in the mountains. But I do have a friend that is about 3 miles from the border, in Sacramento County, and yeah, he says it's a daily occurrence seeing illegals hop the border and come into the United States. Just yesterday, I was doing a show, and yeah, we were talking about how a Mexican military helicopter goes into the United States soil, shoots on or fires 2 shots on U.S. Border Patrol agents, and then goes back, then apologizes, then denies that it ever happened.
So that wasn't even a hoax. I've been reading several of the stories. I'm like, oh, this has got to be a hoax. This is too egregious.
Confirmed. No, it is confirmed. There's local media outlets. I think KVON, I believe, or basically the Tucson's news agency ran with the story,
right?
As well as I do believe their CBS station and several alternative media sites as well. But I've also got contact from boots on the ground at the Texas border, where they found the Mexican drug cartel had come in at the middle of the night and killed about 5 to 6 American militia men while they slept in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that's right. The militia, the actual private militia, private armed groups are down there. So it's even gotten to that point where they're just shooting on American citizens at large now. And there is nothing being done about this. I mean, you hear about, like you said, you know people that they see it's a daily occurrence are down there. What's law enforcement doing? What do you hear on that end, though? I know Texas is trying to do some work. Arizona's always been trying to do work, but you laugh, so.
Yeah, I know, Governor Rick Perry, he said it. He said that he was sending the state police and Texas Rangers, well, actually, as state police, Texas Rangers, to the border to secure it. Well, from my contacts in Texas, yeah, he sent them, but they're staying about 10 miles off the border. I mean, they're staying away from everything. From what I can tell, is law enforcement really isn't doing anything about it. And on the local level, with your county sheriffs and stuff, the feds have pretty much come and taken over. They're unseating the sheriffs, and or either that or the sheriff just lets the feds do whatever. They don't realize that they're their highest law enforcement official in the county, or they don't care.
Hello, really? I mean, when you look at the Bundy situation, that was one of the big things. The county sheriffs and the governor, they completely flipped out because of that usurpation of the proper chain of command there. So now my next question is, okay, if the feds are down there, oh God, I'm going to have to look this up. What are they doing? I seriously doubt these guys are, quote unquote, enforcing.
No, they're not enforcing anything. And after this latest attack, by the Mexican government, I don't know what the United States' reaction is going to be. I know what it would be if I was in the office, but
exactly.
This is Obama we're talking about. So
what is going wrong here? We have completely gone off the rails, Nick. It's not. 20, 30 years ago, you would have heard an outrage. If this was 50 years ago, yeah, there would. There'd be an armed standoff. There'd actually be an international incident. Today, it's business as usual. Do you think we've entered bizarro world? Like we're just transplanted to some bizarre planet now?
Yeah, I guess you can say that. Yeah, I mean, I believe, yeah, we've gone into a world where our officials, our elected officials in government, they don't represent us no longer. They don't care what we want or what we think. That much is evident. You look at Obama's approval rating. I think his job approval rating is down to 41%. His foreign policy rating is down to 37%, and about I think 38% of the people say that he's incompetent to do his job.
Certainly.
And it's like, okay, now we impeached Bill Clinton for having sexual relations with an intern. So what's wrong? Why can't we impeach this president for what he's doing to us?
Even more than just impeach him, just have him arrested.
Well,
where are these people? Where are the leaders? Now, getting back to Operation American Spring,
yes.
That's a very angry movement. It's and I mean angry in that these people are completely fed up. I don't mean they're violent or anything. I mean they're fed up. And you've been covering some of that. Tell us some more about that. And vis-a-vis to what we just said about, our government is doing whatever the hell they want. And what are you hearing from these people?
Well, basically, when I'm hearing from Operation American Spring and members like Colonel Riley, who founded this movement, basically they're all they're all American patriots. They have a list of grievances, which is a list of charges. President Obama could be charged with treason, as well as Eric Holder, Speaker of the House Boehner, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Majority Leader Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi, Vice President Joe Biden. That's the entire list of people that they want removed from office, and it's a big list. really, when you think about it. But unfortunately, Operation American Spring, they have come across some scandal as of late.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah. Well, what I found out is, within the leadership, there's a lot of infighting. I mean, lots of infighting. I mean, it reminded me of junior high, literally. It was that bad. And then there was a donation link set up, one through Pastor Bland, United States of America, another one through a guy named Roberto. He has a website called DC Sheriff. Well, anyways, long story short, they've been accepting donations for OAS. Their websites do not say that they're taking money for OAS. And when you donate the money, it says that you're donating to their church or their group, not OAS.
Interesting.
And what's sad is OAS hasn't seen a dime of it.
Oh, how much money?
So,
how much money are we talking here?
We're talking thousands of dollars. With it between the two charity donation groups, yeah. I mean, like with Pastor Bland, and I can't believe this, because he's a pastor. But I mean, he won't show the records. He won't show what has come in, what he's spending. No transparency whatsoever. When you make a donation, it goes to his church. And for this event on the 5th, Pastor Bland's actually going to be there. We needed to get pocket constitutions so we can hand out to people. Well, we've been trying to contact him. It's like, well, hey, we need to get these pocket constitutions mailed out. And he's been accepting money, for OAS.
Yeah, where's our money for postage? We just need a few dollars for postage just to get them mailed out. How about ordering a few boxes? I know they got them. I get the New American magazine from the John Birch Society. Yeah, they're like a buck or something, a pop. So, I mean, you can get a case of like 25 for $25 or something like that. So it's not that much money, but you're talking thousands of dollars, and you can't even get this much money out of him. And now you said he's going to be there at the July 5th. Is there going to be a confrontation? God knows I would.
Yeah, I'll keep my distance from him and stuff like that. I don't believe that there will be a confrontation. I mean, at least like a fight or anything. I don't think anything like that's going to happen.
Oh, just to confront the guy about this.
Well, yeah, well, exactly. And honestly, I would like to confront him about this, on camera, and put him right on the spot. It's like, what happens to that money?
Has he been on your show? Has the pastor been on your show? No, not at all. And speaking about your show, Friday and Saturdays at 11 o'clock, that's Eastern Standard Time, right? 11 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yes. So that would be about Friday. That's 8 o'clock your time in California, and 10 o'clock that would be in your Central Time. Yeah, so how long have you been doing this show? How'd you get started? Tell us the story about Resistance Radio and Nick Larson. Tell us that story.
Okay, well, actually, I'll take it back to 2011 because that's when I first started internet radio. Basically, I started doing radio because, honestly, my father was dying from cancer, and he told me his lifelong dream was to be on radio. Well, I don't know why he told me that, and I don't know. For some reason, I decided, hey, let's go for radio or television, whatever. So I started going to school, and 2011 I started internet radio, and with a show called That Radio Show, and it was basically a variety show. We talked about anything and everything, politics, off-color stuff. Sometimes it sounded like almost like Howard Stern.
That's okay. I have no problem with that one.
No, there's some good episodes, I'll tell you that much. But the show ended up in 2012. We ended up winning 6 U-Voice Awards, podcast awards. One of them was for Best Talk Show and stuff. So, and then basically as I kept doing the shows, I kept getting a little more and more political. Well, my co-hosts at the time. You know, they were more of the comedy duo that they didn't really want to get into the whole, you know, politic world and stuff like that. So, you know, so in 2013, I started the Resistance. I believe it was February 2013. I started the Resistance. You know, it's kind of giving me that outlet to, you know, speak politically. So, you know, since then I've been doing it. Been going good so far. It's been picking up a lot of steam lately.
Yes.
I mean, the last 3 weeks, last 3-4 weeks, yeah, I've had a surge of new listeners, which is great, wonderful. So yeah, I mean, going great, and you know, every Friday, Saturday night, you know, I know I usually sit down and kind of think, okay, what am I going to talk about today? And you know, all I have to do is just scroll through Facebook. It's like, oh yeah, I can talk about that.
Yeah, right, exactly. Certainly. In fact, that's how the whole candidate thing that I've been doing. Ever since the whole Facebook thing started, and I've gotten the M&P 2012 network going on Facebook. That's how I've started getting more and more candidates, and how my show has grown. It's all been through the internet. And here's the great thing: were you ever on actual quote unquote radio, like regular FM band, AM band?
Not as a talk show host.
No. I did that from 2008 to 2012, and that's interesting and it's fun and it is a lot of work. But once 2012 came around, there was an obvious departure going on with me and the radio station I worked for. And yeah, when I started this whole internet thing, and I've only been rebroadcasting the show starting last November. But I've been producing the show since 2008. But this medium, I absolutely love to do this medium. And I mean, it sounds like you have a great time doing it too. I mean, you have a lot of freedom. Would you agree with that? You have a lot of freedom to say what you want and be what you want and run your show the way you want to.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, on internet radio, I'm not regulated by the FCC, so... You know,
well, that's coming soon, so...
yeah, well, at least so far I'm not regulated by the FCC. Obviously, you know, what people don't realize is President Obama, in his 2012 inaugural address, basically, right after his inaugural address, he had signed into executive order CISPA and PIPA.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, a lot of people don't remember that. You know, because he's pretty sly what he does on these executive orders, just kind of slipping them in without anyone knowing. So basically, yeah, you know, the president does have, you know, at least under executive order, the power to regulate the internet.
That's unbelievable, and it's a complete usurpation of power. But here's the thing, too. He's passed these things. He's got them. Well, he passed them himself by signing the orders.
Right.
I don't see a lot. I mean, your show is on. I follow your show. I follow other people's show. You know B.K. Peters. I've listened to his show a few times. There's never been a knock on my door. There's never been a letter in my mailbox.
You're lucky.
So do you have something to say here? Go ahead. Tell that story.
I've had black SUVs and sedans parked outside my house. I know for a fact that I have NSA listening in on my shows. That, you know, I try to make it a point to say hello to them each time. You know.
Right.
You know, so who knows? The NSA could be watching this too. You know, how you doing, NSA?
How you doing? Yeah, really. And I know for a fact that my good friend Wayne Campbell, who helps me with the Meat and Potato Show pages on Facebook, he's on the Obama's watch list. I'm on the Obama's watch list. He's actually had Secret Service come and actually visit him in his apartment building years ago. No, luckily, I'm knocking on wood here, but luckily for me, that hasn't happened. I don't know, maybe I ought to be checking more for black SUVs following me around.
Well, and actually, you know, for me, they were actually parked right outside my house.
Sure.
And, you know, when you live in a small town, it's kind of easy to spot those things.
Of course.
But you know what? When I flew out here to California from Minneapolis out here, I checked my boarding pass. And, you know, it used to be that there was a series of S's on your boarding pass that determined your security threat level.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have asterisks. I had 11 asterisks on my security check. I'm like, wow. Okay.
Nick the terrorist. Yes, folks, look at him. Look at how terroristic he is. Look at him. Yes, amazing. Oh God, Nick, does it get any worse? And what a freaking waste of time all of this is. I mean, we just finished talking about the border being flooded. We've got Iraq falling apart. And you know that coming across the border are a bunch of jihadists. No one's doing anything. But yet they're following Nick Larson because he said something on his show about an Obama policy. I mean, how limp dick can this possibly get for this administration?
It can get, well, I don't...
Pretty bad.
Yeah, it can get pretty bad. I mean, look at, when you go back to throughout history, and let's just take the German Nazis, for example, okay? The Nationalist Socialist Party. When Hitler, rise to power, in the early 1930s, he basically got rid of all the other political organizations or groups or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, at the time, Germany was in a deep economic depression because after World War I, they had quite the bill that they had to pay. I think it was like $8 million, which really, by today's standards, would be like $80 trillion or something like that.
Yes, right. It would be high by today's standards.
And, so the people had really nowhere to turn to and stuff like that. And, Hitler rose to power, and, they just thought it was another political group. And then all of a sudden, he starts for the gun registration and then confiscation. Then he rounds up, the Jews and
gypsies, gays, everybody else. Yeah, exactly.
Gays. I mean,
right.
Well, and then look at what's going on today. I mean, you got persecution of Christians, patriots. Anyone that has a "Don't Tread on Me" flag, which by the way, I got that with me here.
Good.
Yeah, I had to make sure bring that.
Yeah, make sure you bring that with you. Make sure you bring that on the 5th. I'm sure there'll be plenty of them there. Yeah, I remember in April I went to the gun rally in Connecticut down at the State House in Hartford, Connecticut. Thousands of people were there. The unbelievable amount of Gadsden flags, American flags. Anonymous was there. A whole bunch of people with anonymous flags were there. And the police were very well. They stayed in the perimeter. They stayed by their cars. They didn't bother us. It was very, very nice. And this was a vocal group too. I was filming. A lot of other people were filming. For their own media outlets. I didn't see any mainstream media filming. There were two leftist protesters who were standing way off in the corner. But the point I'm getting to is I don't remember seeing anybody really there filming, taking pictures of people, taking pictures of license plates and cars and stuff like that. Not to say that was probably not going on, but
they didn't really have to. All they had to do was use the traffic cams or drones. I believe one of the last protests they had down in Houston, I believe Alex Jones was part of that one. They actually saw a drone flying overhead of them.
Sure. Just to film, see who's there. Yeah. Exactly.
Recon, and when they can use a drone and go 2-3 miles up in the air and look down at your house, thermal imaging, and actually see your face, and do a facial recognition or whatever, that's scary.
That is scary.
That's scary that the government has the technology to do that and is doing that to its own citizens.
It's not doing anything to fight the war on terror or fight illegal drugs or again, the border problem. All this money and technology.
Why are the drones on the Iowa-Minnesota border when they should be on the Texas-Mexico border?
Exactly, taking pictures of everything and relaying that information left and right. And why there aren't National Guards and tanks down there.
Exactly. The U.S. has, technically and literally, for every intensive purposes, the U.S. has been attacked by Mexico.
We have. Yeah, we've been invaded by its citizens, attacked by its military. You're right. Absolutely.
This is an act of war, in my opinion. But we sit back and do nothing because Obama, that's his whole plan. He's trying to, flood America with immigrants. He's gutting our military, but yet for these illegal immigrants, hey, you want a pathway to citizenship? Just join the military.
Do you think it's?
But yet we're gutting our military.
Do you think is it one of two things in your opinion? And I've asked variations of this question to a number of my guests. Do you think this is something that he's just caught up with? He's just trying to pander to his political base, the ultra-left Democrats, or is this purposeful? Is he one of those ultra-left Democrats, and he is purposely doing this?
I would say he's purposely doing it.
And your answer that you just gave, that's about 90% of the answers everybody has asked on my show about this. Yeah, it is. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I believe he's purposely doing this, but I don't believe that he's the puppet master. I believe he's just the puppet.
Of course.
I believe there's other powers that be here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a hierarchy on what's going on. You can call them the Illuminati, you can call them Agenda 21, you call it whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is there is, the top 1% of the 1% that is really running the things. The big corporations. You look in America, our media is owned by 6 corporations. That's it, 6.
Yeah.
Just 6. I mean, and we're supposed to have the freedom of the press. How can we have freedom of the press when our press is owned by 6 different, big conglomerate corporations?
That includes everybody too. That includes radio bands, newspapers, news magazines. It's not just television. You look at it's what I call the PepsiCo. You look at Pepsi, the Pepsi label. It's not just Pepsi. You see all their different logos underneath.
Yep.
They control a huge corner of the food industry, and that is not a good thing. It's the same thing with the media. Again, it's not just television and radio. It's newspapers, news magazines, all different types of print. And when we had at our Tea Party meeting a week or two ago, we had a lot of internet bloggers coming on and talking about what they're doing. And one of the guys got up to the microphone and he said, "You've got to be careful, when you look on the internet and you see, oh, new internet site, get your news here, and you think it's a new site, but you look deeper, it's owned by CBS, it's owned by CNN, it's owned by Viacom."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. And
is that John over there in the call? Is that John?
No, actually, that was his wife.
No.
But
are we being too loud, Mrs. DeMay?
No. I got that. I got the earbuds in and everything. They're just looking to see who I'm talking to. So that's all. But yeah, I mean, the whole new medias or whatever. At least if they're mainstream media on traditional broadcast, then odds are they're the big conglomerates. Now there's also a rise, which I'm pretty sure you've seen too, in alternative media.
Of course.
New shows popping up, new networks popping up, actually. My show just got picked up by the Northern Lights group. Northern Lights Network, our new radio station on the internet. So, so that makes 3 now. That network that got picked up my show. What's that?
I said, good for you. Very good.
Oh, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, it's great. The more people, the better. But, it's getting getting these, independent broadcasters out there, or independent, news networks, I guess you can call them. Like this one, granted right now I'm the only show, so, but, there's other shows that I'm sure that will be coming on board.
What, are you the only one with Northern Lights? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so far.
No kidding, huh?
They just started.
Geez, I ought to throw in my resume. I think I'll do that. See if they want to pick up another one. What carrier do they go? You go off of Blog Talk Radio, right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, off of Spreaker, yeah.
Yeah, Spreaker. There you go. You go off of Spreaker. So that would be who they go. That's the carrier they would go to, correct? Northern Lights?
No.
Oh, they have their own carrier.
Yeah, they have their own shoutcast server.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
So for me as a broadcaster, I just send, when I do the encoder, I got Sam Broadcaster and everything. Mm-hmm. So when I when I start the encoder, I have 3 encoders I start, one for Great Lakes Radio Network, one for PNN Talk Radio,
Right.
and then now one for Northern Lights.
Excellent. Excellent.
So,
When you do your hour show. I missed your show last Saturday, and Friday and Saturday. I was away at the beach, and I went off and did stuff with my family. So what was the show? How was the show? What did you guys cover?
It was good. It was good. Last night we did an episode. You know, it was pretty good. You know, had a few people call in. We talked about immigration, and you know, the Mexican attack on our border patrols. The week before, I talked about you know, those 10 steps to closing an open society,
Yes.
and that one really good. I had a lot of great positive feedback, you know, because the show was almost 4 hours long. Okay?
Right.
And usually I try to keep it to 2 hours.
Right.
But you know, sometimes it goes longer.
It just goes.
But,
Right.
right. But I've had people listen to the episode and they said, you know, it only felt like 90 minutes. It didn't feel like, you know, almost 4 hours.
Yeah, because you're going right through. The conversation is that intense. That's incredible. Yeah. And you've spoken to Matthew Virgin a couple of times on your show too. You know about about the stuff that he's working on. Have you found that ever since doing radio that you've learned a lot? I don't mean just how to operate radio and do it and be that persona. I mean, you've learned a lot just talking to people and exposing yourself to the news and what's going on and following stories, following the follow-ups of the stories, you're looking into something and you say, well, wait a minute, maybe I want to research this a little more and get a little better handle on it. Is that what you're finding, that it's like, wow, all this time I've been doing this, I've learned a lot of stuff?
Yeah, actually, yeah, I have learned a lot, you know, not only what's going on in political, you know, as well as political science, but I've also learned a lot about, you know, just people in general, you know, sociology, where, you know, you know, one of the biggest things that we're tasked with, you know, those that, you know, like us in the alternative media, is trying to wake up the lemmings, you know, trying to wake up the sheep.
Yes.
Well, it may surprise you to know that from basically birth till 2010, I was a raving liberal.
Oh, me too. Yeah, keep going. Go on. Tell your story. Go on.
I was a raving.
Wait. Hi, everybody. My name's Christopher, and I'm a former liberal Democrat. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Yeah.
Go on, take it. Your turn.
That program here. Yeah. But you know, it really, you know, at the time, it was, you know, I was completely against Bush, and you know, I was calling for his impeachment and stuff like that, like everyone else was on the left. And then Obama got elected, and yes, I voted for him the first time. I didn't vote for him the second time. Well, you can't fool me twice. But yeah, the first time I did vote for him, and you know, love him or hate him, folks. I mean, you gotta give the guy credit for one thing. He is one heck of a public speaker.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he could sell ice to an Eskimo, and not only would the Eskimo like it, he would love it and probably give him money. But anyways, I mean, he's a heck of a public speaker, and honestly, that's how I think he won the 2008 election. You know, other than election fraud. But you know, then 2000, you know, throughout, you know, going on, and you know, I saw Obama doing this same stuff that Bush was doing, and you know, and the right, you know, crying foul, and the left not really saying anything. And you know, I saw executive orders and stuff like that. I'm like, wait a minute, you know, because all throughout, you know, I've always been very, you know, constitutional, and you know, up until 2010, I would say that I was a moderate liberal. Now, and then I opened my eyes and saw the writing on the wall, and I saw, you know, that, you know, it wasn't just Obama, it wasn't just Bush. I mean, this went back as far as 1871.
Right.
You know, this you know, the slippery slope. That's when it started, and just looking at all this and how each of our constitutional rights are inalienable rights that our founding fathers, you know, wrote down for us. That, you know, granted, yeah, I mean, the Bible says that it's our inalienable rights. So really, we don't need a document saying that what our rights are, but it is kind of nice to have a reference. But anyways, I digress. Going back, yeah, and seeing, each of our constitutional amendments being, gutted out. The First Amendment, the freedom of speech, first, that was first to get attacked. The free speech areas and stuff, and then, freedom of religion. Where now schools we're forcing our children to practice Islam, which,
But it's illegal to say anything Christian. It's still, the liberals will still scream and yell that separation of church and state thing, which exists nowhere in the Constitution. They'll still scream that. But if we're going to go to a mosque, isn't that wonderful? No, that's covered under cultural. That's not covered under religion. It's cultural. And it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, when's the last time you saw a fifth grade class go to a Catholic church to, learn about its practices and religion?
Yeah, the act of communion and what it means. You don't have to take part in communion. You can sit by and learn the history of it and why it exists and why it's important to the Catholics. I'm not Catholic, but I would never, ever say anything bad about that. That's your religion, and that's what you do. But you're right. If we sent our kids to something like that, people would completely flip out.
Well, they've already started flipping out. I mean, granted, yeah, we're not sending our kids there, but, our kids are bringing Bibles to school to read. And they're being told that, no, you can't bring that book into the school.
Yeah.
But yet you can bring the Quran and, anything Islamic in. What the heck? I mean,
in fact, even the Islamic children.
Well, and I understand that some school boards and teachers, they're caving into pressure.
Yes.
And stuff like that. They don't want to rock the boat or anything like that, so they just go with it.
Certainly.
But really, I have no problem with people learning about other religions. Just don't do it in elementary school.
Right. And just leave it to learning about other religions. Just learn about them.
If you want to go to college, if you want to go to college and study, world religions or, sociology or cultural diversity, then that's up to you, all the power to you. But, my 7-year-old daughter does not need to know about Islam.
No.
Okay, what she needs to know she needs to know about reading, writing, arithmetic, science, history.
Yes.
That's what she needs to know about. She doesn't need to know about, Islam or Christianity or, let me deal with that. I'll deal with the religious aspect at home.
And speaking about education, I've been covering some of the Common Core movement that's going on here in Massachusetts. What do you hear in your state of Minnesota? And I've already spoken to John about what's going on in California, and we'll speak again about that. But what do you hear about Minnesota?
Well, Minnesota it has the Common Core curriculum, and it's live and well. There are certain school districts that are getting away from it. It is a bit hard for them to do it because obviously the state is still behind it.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, there's no state initiative or bill or anything that would get rid of Common Core.
Amazing. Let's switch gears a little bit here and start winding it down a bit. John DeMay, Jr., he's running for president in 2016. Now, he's run before. I want you to tell the story about how you met him, how you came to help him and work with him. Tell us that history.
Okay. Well, I first met him, in October of last year, 2013. And he was on one of my buddy's radio shows, on BK's radio show, Just BK. I was just hearing him speak, and and obviously, I called in like I always do on this show. I called in, and kind of took John through the gambit of questions, and granted we didn't agree on every single thing, which was fine. I didn't want to agree with him on everything, but afterwards, I did get in touch with him, and because he said he was looking for help for his campaign and stuff, and with my background and with media, and as well as I'm also getting my bachelor's degree in public relations. I told him that I could help out on the media aspect, and I just figured I was just going to get some volunteer job getting petitions signed or whatever. But before I knew it, I'm director of public relations. So yeah, so I was like, oh wow, okay, wow.
They've reeled you in there, Nick. They've reeled you in. I can see this reel spinning now.
Yeah. So
resistance is futile.
so yeah, I started doing being director of public relations, and as I went through the campaign, I also did the campaign managing, as well as the volunteer coordinator as well, which is like 3 jobs all.
Yeah, now you've switched that. Who's the campaign manager now? I have his name written down somewhere. I just don't have it.
Yeah, the campaign manager right now is his name is William Oden.
Right, Mr. Oden. That's right.
Yep. And basically that was like, that was just me saying, okay, well, I had no, it's not that I don't want to be a campaign manager. It's just,
yeah, you can't. You got too much to do, right?
Kind of thing, So I was more than happy to do, to go do, just the PR and, media relations, stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's basically how we met, and just by a radio show.
Sure, right, and I've met him through the social network too, and I'm so grateful that he's been on my show. We did our 3rd interview a little while ago. I'm sure you've done several more. And after he's done with the 4th of July holiday, I'm going to start arranging that we get him on to Meat and Potatoes, every bi-weekly or whenever his schedule will allow. And one of the things that he talked about when he and I first started conversing is he was very concerned about name recognition and getting his numbers out. And I have watched from the past few months, and I'm not saying it's because of me, I've just noticed that the more that we're talking about him and covering him, and his numbers are growing, more people are asking about him, more people are joining his Facebook sites, they're following him on Twitter, and now you guys are going to do this rally on the 5th. And I know he's had other news interviews, but what I'm saying is everything, it's that slow creep. And I think this is a good thing. I know he wants to get his name really out there and grow big. I think it's good that he's growing slow, because the more and more people that we meet over time, the more and more we can get them committed to actually staying with him over the long run. In elections, you get all these people that are hot to join your campaign, and as soon as something happens or goes wrong, they bail ship and, 6 months down the road or whatever. But it's great that this is going on, and I'm seeing that. Are you seeing that his numbers go up on your end from the people you're talking to?
Yeah, actually I am. Since I've been in California, I've been talking with the organizers and planners for the event on the 5th, and obviously getting John to speak there, and a lot of them have already heard about him.
Good.
They heard the name. They can't really put a face to the name, or they know he's a constitutionalist, but that's about it.
Right.
So at least they know the name and everything, and the 5th, he'll be doing a speech there. We might be going to the Mexican consulate or the Mexican embassy that day too.
Amazing. You guys got to get lots of footage. Post it up on all your sites, and definitely make sure that you said, there you go, and make sure you definitely post it on the Meat and Potatoes page. I belong to like 30 or 40 Tea Party groups all across the nation, and the members are in the thousands, and we're not talking a few hundred here or a few hundred there. There's one group I belong to, there's 22,000 people in the group, and so that just gives you an idea of some of the members and the numbers that I'm reaching when I repost and I spread all the stuff around that I do on my end. So definitely send me as much as you can. I'll make it viral on my part. Is John there, or is he not in the room, or no?
Well, he's not in the room at the moment. I can.
Yeah, I'd like to give him a quick shot, give him a call, tell him to come in, have him sit down for a couple of minutes. I'd just like to, if he can, if he's.
Okay, well, let me go check. Okay?
Yeah, just hang on. Go ahead. Well, that would be cool. That would be really cool. Yeah, that'll be really cool if we can get John on here to do this on the Skype. And this is really exciting. I like doing this. I like really doing this. This is really something. And I'm talking to Nick Larson. He's out in California. He's at John DeMay's house. They're getting ready to head out on the 5th to a rally. Sacramento, I think it is. I'll have to ask him again. It's either Coronado or Sacramento. It's one or the other. And yeah, his name is getting out there more and more. And I think it's amazing that you know what Nick said was people have heard of him, they just can't put the face to the name. All you got to do is go on his Facebook sites. That's all you got to do. Just go on his Facebook sites. You can go on my sites, and you'll be able to see John DeMay. Let's see if he's coming back here. He should be coming back on any second now. I'll tell you, I really like doing this Skype thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how to do it live. So instead of using the camera, I can, here we go. We got somebody coming on here. What do you got?
Okay. Yeah, no go. He's got
stuff to do?
Yeah, he's got a nasty migraine right now.
Oh, he's a busy guy. Don't worry about it. Well, Nick, anyway, so send us all that stuff. Don't have to send it at once. Now, you're not going to be able to broadcast your show on the 5th, or are you going to do it later that night? See, what I'm saying to you is are you going to do it, like, from the rally? Is there a way to record it and podcast it?
I'm going to try.
Right.
There is a way that I could do it. I do have a producer that I can call, and then he can run the show on his end, and then I just use my cell phone to call in and just like that.
Yeah, excellent.
I can bring my laptop too, and just use my cell phone as a hotspot and get an internet connection that way.
Sure, great. Yeah, either way, yeah. What do you? And like you said, you got your video camera. You're going to be ready to go, so you'll have it all recorded. Nick, tell my audience about your show again. What the time is, the bat time, bat channel, everything else. Give my audience that information.
Okay. Well, you can. The show is called The Resistance. Airs every Friday and Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific time. You can catch that on theresistanceradio.com, and from there you can hear the stream from anywhere. There's a chat room in there. There's articles I've written, blogs from other people, videos. It's all free too. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to create a username or password or anything. Just come, listen, communicate, chat, have fun. That's it.
Excellent. Nick, thanks for coming on the show, man. Thanks a lot, and good luck. Good luck. You have a good day.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show.
All right, Captain. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Talk to you later.
And there you go. That was my first Skype conversation for the Meat and Potato Show. We'll see how that goes. Conservative talk and awesome rock. Cool. God damn it! Why? I can just hear you in there bitching. Why? What happened?
Nothing. I got out of my car and I got hit by a car.
Oh.
When that happened?
Oh. cigarettes are just like squirrels. They're perfectly harmless until you put one in your mouth and light it on fire. Good, well, July 14th. Alright, well, I'm going to close all these other windows so that I just have this going so that I don't take up David's precious